Hello, my name is Daniel Stillwell, and we have with us today Dr. Carlos Ramos. We are here at IFTA in Spain, and I'm the editor of the IFTA newsletter, and looking forward to having a conversation with you today. So let's start off with who you are. Where are you? What kind of therapist do you identify as? What does that look like for your work?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll give you a little bit of cultural context.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bilingual therapist. I'm located in San Antonio, Texas. I'm a professor of marriage and family therapy at Our Lady of the Lake University.
Yes.
And we have 3 campuses throughout Texas. We have one in Houston, San Antonio, and in the RGV.
Mm-hmm.
However, I teach from the San Antonio campus. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, so I have a Cuban heritage with a Cuban accent. So I grew up in Miami and then relocated to San Antonio to join Our Lady of the Lake family. So I teach marriage and family therapy, and I also direct the PSSP certificate, which stands for the Psychological Services for Spanish-Speaking Populations. And what's unique to Our Lady of the Lake, specifically the marriage and family therapy program, is that we offer bilingual classes. A good portion of the San Antonio population is Hispanic, and many do speak Spanish, or they have some type of relationship with Spanish. So most of our clients at our university-sponsored clinic speak Spanish as well, because it's our clinic and university is in the heart of San Antonio, and about 90% of our clients are Hispanic. So there was a dire need for Spanish-speaking therapists in that area. So the university, prior to my time, created the PSSP certificate. So what that intends to do is to train students that are conversationally fluent in Spanish to work with our clients. So that's something that we offer at Our Lady of the Lake. We offer classes, not all classes, most of the classes are in English, but there are a select few that are in Spanish, or what we like to call Spanglish.
Mm-hmm.
So we speak in both languages, and that's something that we've been embracing at our university, especially with our students that are heritage speakers that want to be in the PSSP certificate, to feel free to speak either language.
Yeah, because I assume not everyone is a native English speaker.
Yeah, not
Okay.
a native English speaker or Hispanic, and not a native Spanish speaker.
Okay.
So you have a combination of both. So you'll see this experience with language shyness in both English for native speaking Spanish students and in Spanish for heritage speakers whose parents or grandparents migrated, or great-great-grandparents migrated from some Latin American country. So what we try to embrace is use the words that are available to you and see how we make sense of them. So that helps them start to feel comfortable, confident about their ways of engaging. So we offer this certificate to bilingual therapists, and that's one of the things I like to research, to write about, to think about. I've given this a lot of thought. My presentation was on virtual reflecting teams with the Latina community, and how do we make sense of our conversations with this community, this culture, via reflecting teams. What type of context can we create where the conversations can be helpful, can be meaningful to them? So I like to really explore those culturally attuned practices with the Latino community. I also, my dissertation and my research, my continued research has been on hypnosis. Hypnosis from a relational stance. My chair and my mentor, my colleague Douglas Flemons, has been in the field for many years, family therapy for many years, and he also specializes in hypnosis. And I had the privilege of being able to research his work, his clinical work, and I pursued my dissertation on what he had been doing in the field, and we continued that project, and we recently published an article in the Journal of Systemic Therapies, which highlights the use of relational approach to hypnosis with phobia of blood and needles. So there's a lot of research out there on hypnosis. However, most of the research is on a CBT approach to hypnosis, traditional approaches. What I think is unique to the way Douglas practices and myself is a relational approach. How do you think about hypnosis? How do you think about problems from a systemic standpoint? So that's something else that I'd like to explore, and I've had other ideas that I've been thinking about how to expand on this notion of hypnosis.
Okay. All right. Now I know that you had a presentation with a colleague, and what was his name again?
Julian Crespo, Dr. Crespo.
All right, wonderful. He was unable to be with us today, but the two of you were doing the reflecting teams, not only for therapy but for supervision as well.
That's right.
So how do you navigate all that?
Absolutely. So I think it starts with the PSSSP certificate. So our supervisees are pursuing that track, so they take classes in both English and Spanish. So we create a context in our classes where we start to think about not just the translation of Spanish. I was with my cousin in Madrid a few days ago, and I was with my partner, Claire, and she's American. She doesn't speak Spanish, and my cousin loves to talk. He loves to tell stories. He loves to tell jokes. And he used me as a translator, and I could. He liked to tell other stories about history and what this means in Madrid, and those type of things were easy to translate. However, he also likes to tell jokes. He has a good sense of humor, and he would tell me a joke, and he would immediately want me to translate the joke. However, I found it really hard to transfer or translate the joke from English or from Spanish to English because I had to find the meaning. I had to find the right words. I had to find the rhythm to try to translate the joke to my wife so that she could find it funny. So that for me is analogical to how we think about therapy in Spanish when we've been reading all of these ideas and all of these theories, all of these concepts, reading through these models in English. Yes, certain words do translate over nicely. However, the idea, the message, a pace, a rhythm can be harder to translate.
Right.
So these classes help students start thinking about these ideas, engaging with these ideas in Spanish, which then helps us translate these experiences to a clinical setting. Now, reflecting teams as well, it's the same idea. The reflecting teams were initially created by Tom Anderson and his colleagues to go from being private in the past and still now. We do this as well. You have an observation team and you have a therapy team. The observation team talks about the clients and the process and then shares this information with the therapist. And what he wanted to do was go from what's being said in the behind the one-way mirror to share with clients. So the information that was initially private became public through reflecting teams. However, what we noticed is that process was very helpful with our clients, but we wanted to see if we can be very culturally attuned with our students and our clients. So we wanted to take a step forward or continue to evolve this process in being public. And that was very much influenced by our cultural ways of engaging, story sharing, and we all in most cultures do use stories to share and experiences. However, how does the Latino community engage, share stories, and think about their experiences? So we tried to expand on the idea of reflecting teams from culturally sensitive ways that were influenced by our theoretical courses and our PSSSP classes and other things that we pulled from to help us think about ways that we can further enhance or enhance our relationships with clients. So in my part of the presentation, Julian was very much involved as well. At least in my section, I pulled from Don Quixote de la Mancha,
Okay.
a classic novel written by Miguel de Cervantes, who 99% of the population is familiar with this novel. So what I extracted from the novel was the way that the characters engaged in the novel, the way Don Quixote thought about it, his experiences, his realities, the way that others thought about it, the different contexts, and this inner exchange of diverse narratives in the story that had a sense of humor, a pace, a rhythm, where everyone was engaging from different contexts, and the way they thought about reality and objective truths it lends itself very nicely to our postmodern ways of working in our program, the models that we embraced in therapy. So I pulled we pulled these ideas from, there's so much information in that novel, but we pulled these ways of engaging to make better sense of our cultural ways of engaging in therapy.
Nice. And I like how earlier you said when thinking about language issues, between English and Spanish, use the words that you have. I think that's also a really great model for being a therapist in general? Like, what words do the clients come with? What words do you have to meet them with? And that postmodern exchange of we make meaning together. I really like that. How do you make sure that is culturally humble, not just competent?
Absolutely. So that's a conversation that's a great point, because that's a conversation that we have with our students. The idea of competence, I think that idea has evolved. Competence means you're an expert and you know what Cubans are supposed to look like and how they communicate, right? So it's very generalized, very categorized, very punctuated. So we like to embrace this idea of cultural humility, and what we've been really embracing now is cultural curiosity. How do you let the clients essentially, and this is something that's very much connected to family therapy ways of working, and it translates the idea translates very well to the Latino community. How can you be culturally curious about their experiences? So what we find too, and one facet of it is, how can you be culturally curious about their language, their Spanglish, the ways of seeing the world, thinking about things. And something that has really resonated with me lately was something that Marcela Polanco has been thinking about, and she brought to my attention is, most of us have said that things get lost in translation. What gets lost when we try to go from English to Spanish or some type of language to another? And what she's saying is, and which is I think is brilliant, is what is gained through translation. So in the process of thinking about one idea and trying to think about another, or the use of language to try to convey something to another, you might not get the right technical word, but what is it that comes out? So there's a sense of creativity in that process.
That goes even back to the idea of humor. It's often in the sort of liminal space between meaning that things are funniest.
Exactly. And I think humor is a wonderful example of spontaneity and creativity, improvisation. So these elements are the things that we are now very much focused on when it comes to the idea of being culturally curious, humble.
Yeah. Well, fantastic.
That's a language, yeah.
You're doing some clearly good work that is super cool, and I think really fits the spirit of what IFTA is all about, is the meeting of minds and cultures and trying to make sure that we can get through this together. Let's end with something fun. So you have your own sort of heritage, and you live in Texas, but you're here in Spain. Where in Europe would you like to go next?
So I was thinking about Paris.
Okay.
I'm here with my father, and he lives in the Canary Islands. I very much love the Canary Islands, so he came to visit me because I don't see him too often. And we were thinking about Paris, but we saw the protests that were going on in Paris, so that scared us a bit. But I would like to go to France at some point. My wife has been there, and she knows that I'm an art fan, that I love to go to different museums, and I really want to visit the museums there and just explore the French culture, their ways of engaging. I've heard the food is also delicious, so I think France would probably be my next destination.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thank you so much, Carlos, for being here, and we'll see you around.
Thank you.